GM. That was a close race, and the Clanosaurus skin on the jockey, man, is so sick. Look, I'll say this. Hey man, those jockeys, they look like they're warm. You look like you're cold and you're in Florida. What is happening here in Florida? Why is it so cold?
I know, man, it's rough. My office is always actually like negative 30 degrees anyway. So, but yeah, last 2 days here, I've been ready to move, ready to move south. Brutal.
Move more south because
Yeah.
this is getting too crazy, man.
Yeah.
Man, well, I appreciate you coming on. A lot of things have been happening with Photo Finish. You guys are on the secret phone. Man, I've been seeing all the craze, all the like tweets about it, but also I think what a time to be alive as well for you guys in the sense that like we're seeing all these prediction markets take off, right? And we're seeing a lot of this kind of like open up the doors on gambling and sports betting and prediction markets and how all this kind of works out, right? And I think you guys, man, have been had strong conviction in on-chain gaming and on-chain horse racing. To be here today, I mean, like, man, talk about like having that conviction early on, but even like just seeing it play out and having all the success now, like that just coming and pouring in. I think, man, hats off to you guys. I'm really, really excited for the future.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, good to see you again. It's been a bit. Yeah, it's funny you say what a time to be alive. It is a wild time to be alive. But to keep the game alive all this time, I mean, we launched the on Solana the first NFT project in late August of 2021. So it's wild to, there's not very many of us still around from that OG days, and so it's always cool to kind of see a few people that have stayed alive and still building, and that's us. We're still like grinding every day, grinding.
Yeah, man. And look, I think it's just exciting to see more of the space open up to it, right? And understand it. And I think that like for me, it's just like, man, the future is really, really bright for all of us that have thought about, hey, why the Web3 technology, blockchain, payment rails, transparency marketplaces, all these things that are very much built inside of what we are here today, but seeing it more and more go global, and the bigger names are adopting it. The bigger names are starting to like, hey, okay, what is happening over here? I think like, man, the next 2-3 years or even 5 years, like I think that. I know you've broken through with some bigger names as well. Like, man, that future for me, the next 5 years looks brighter and brighter now.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah. So we signed a pretty like amazing historic deal with the Kentucky Derby a little under 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, roughly. And I think it was one of the bigger like crypto sort of native type deals to have something like that, to have the Kentucky Derby sort of connected to Solana through us, through the game, through Photo Finish. But it's still a like huge uphill battle. Like when I talk to people at Churchill Downs, they've never heard of Solana. They don't understand. So there's still like we can say uphill, or we can also say like it's just so much opportunity there for a lot of these things, and it's become the administration is so much more bullish on crypto and has sort of lessened the scariness. It was really hard at the beginning when we were working on Sol to deal with tokens, and we had to set up multiple entities offshore, and you still have to do a lot of those things, but it's great to see some more people accept it. Like when we started, you couldn't even put an app on the app store if it had crypto related things in it. So it's been wild just to see in the last 4 years the amount of adoption, and yeah, hopefully up only, right?
Yeah, man, that's exactly it. It's like we're starting to see regulation, adoption, the administration, everybody kind of very being open, and I think like prediction markets are even something that's even taking more whirlwind right now that are opening up the people of like, hey, what is this stuff? Like, what is crypto? What is blockchain? Always thought it was a scam. Always thought it was some token and all this stuff, and it's like, nah, man, like we do have bad actors like anywhere else in the space. You look at the finance space, there's plenty of bad actors there. And,
Mhm.
and so like when you look at that kind of stuff, yeah, there is a stigma that gets raised. But right now, I think we're tackling that stigma across the whole industry, across the World Wide Web, let's just say, that are people are saying, okay, like this is actually really, really cool that I'm able to send instantly funds. Oh my God, like this is gamifying my experience. This is better gaming experience that I'm having. And it's all on payment rails or it's on blockchain technology that's on the back end that just doesn't need to be, let's just say, put in my face of how we used to do it back in the day,
Right.
of like, oh my God, dude, Web3 is going to be the future. And it's like, well, I don't know if the average person wants to have that conversation.
Yeah, I mean, there's still that problem, right? Like, especially with gamers, most gamers consider crypto scam. They kind of have an immediate negative reaction when they hear about it. That's been definitely an issue with photo finish. You know, like the game is pretty straightforward. You own a horse and you race him for real money. That's always been the pitch. It's not set up your seed phrase and do these other like kind of heavy crypto things. Now, like over time, you sort of want people to graduate into that self custody and sort of starting to take control, and then of course enter the ecosystem and what else is around here. But I think that's been a big problem for a lot of teams. It's like you hit people up front with this seed phrase thing. You just imagine explaining a seed phrase to anyone, and I mean, it took me like a year to understand the notion of ledgers and seed phrase and all these things. Working on it. So it's just, and I'm a developer, so there's just a lot of people that it's just never going to click. So the better and better that we get is like on ramping people through the Coinbases of the world and through the institutions, and then they get red pilled. I think has been pretty successful.
Yeah. Man, I know it's been some time. Give us that update on what's been happening behind the scenes with Photo Finish. I'll say, like, I know that the last 3 months or 4 months of tweets, just looking at some of the stuff, been super uber bullish on the amount of people signing up to check out Photo Finish. Again, Seeker phone, being on mobile, like these are just being more accessible, right? Being more accessible to players as people. And I think that love to understand that last 3 months of like all that success and how you guys are building up for it.
Yeah, it's been a super exciting last few weeks, really, and a lot of that was around Seeker. So the backstory there. So Photo Finish is a skill based game. It's considered a skill based game, and that differentiation especially matters in the U.S., where when you enter your horse into a race, you're doing so for real money. You're playing against other people for real money. We are a U.S. company. We are hyper compliant. We have legal. We don't do all this stuff like just willy nilly like some teams may. It's not for me. So it's core that we retain that level of skill based game as a claim. It's not a gambling game. It's a skill based game. And over time, we got that shipped onto iOS. They have a very clear terms of service. As long as it's a skill-based game, as long as you're in the states that allow it. Again, it's only locked like 37 US states. You can't play it in the other ones. Then it's fine. Android doesn't allow it at all, which is wild. And you would think it'd be the other way around. Typically, iOS has always been the big heavy gatekeeper. Android is not. So when we released the app, long ago, it was like, oh, it's not, Android's not letting us through. And we tried to make some changes and they were just like, no, Google Play just never let it through. So it's exciting to see Seeker come on board with this, like, totally makes that joke of, it's time to, basically hack the duopoly. It's an interesting approach to imagine that like there is another option. And we saw the uptick of Seeker, user purchases, right? Over 100,000 devices bought. I can't even remember how many. It was a lot. And so, we definitely were like cautiously optimistic. We had no idea. Like, obviously, the Saga phone was just people bought it to get their free bonk, and then they set it down. Most people, but we were like, is that going to be the case here? And so we set up a campaign where basically, if you came and signed up, we would match your deposit, pretty standard thing on real money sites, and then we get you a horse. There you go, get you a horse. You can start racing, and then we have some exclusives for Seeker players. So there's like a leaderboard of the top Seeker players. We've got special races that Seeker players can enter. So we did kind of all this work to say like, all right, well, if somebody does happen upon us in the Seeker DApp store, there's something special for them, and worked with the Seeker team to do like kind of a featuring, like similar to the App Store, be on top of their DApp store for a week. And I couldn't believe it. I mean, it was like thousands of downloads. I think 10,000 downloads within the first like 4 to 5 days. And all of those people were coming in and actually playing. Now, that has been a real difficulty for us. Photo finish from the start, we've always known it's a very hardcore game. Like it's a horse management game. So you kind of at some level have to have like a little bit of that click in your brain, like you're a hardcore fantasy football player, you're a hardcore poker player, you're into playing games for real money. You're a sports bettor. Those are the types of people that we attract. And so I always was very like, again, cautious of like seeker owners. Are they ready to get a horse and, like take care of it and race it? And yeah, I mean the number of deposits, the number of new players, the number of people still racing, it's been awesome as just kind of a real big injection of thousands of new players into the ecosystem. It's on us to make sure we retain them, keep them happy. We keep rolling new features out, new leaderboards, all those types of things. Eventually, who knows what it'll be, but it was just a great like proof point of like there are other options to go around Apple and Google and their thing. It's like there is a crypto native audience. They're willing to try new things, and they just dropped right in. And they also kind of they're slightly degenerate, I guess they want to say. They immediately wanted to get in and play. Like the first sets of people, we saw quite a few of them. Like they got their deposit in and they immediately bet it all on one race. I was like, that's my people. That's my people. Yeah, it's like that's who I want to see. That's how I roll when you get a DraftKings, $500 bonus match. I'm like, we're going with 500 on the Bears. Let's go. So yeah, it's been really cool to see, and hopefully continues a lot of momentum moving forward as Seeker sells more or as more people find out about us.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, congratulations on that. I think it's awesome to hear kind of like, again, a breakthrough with mobile technology here that, a lot of us have kind of like been, hey, what's Seeker going to be able to do? What is it really doing? And I think like, man, hearing a case study like this and a success story like this just proves a lot more to exactly what that future could look like for mobile phones. As Anatoly and Toli has been like very much like, hey, how do we disrupt this market? How do you look at disrupting the market? And his strong conviction about what Apple and Android and looking at the Seeker phone and what it could possibly do. I think that's just uber bullish to hear and uber bullish to see as well. But better is always like data and facts, right? And here you are saying kind of what that is. So give us kind of a little bit of like, okay, lots has come in through the Seeker phone. What do you think as a developer, man? Like, what's that word of like advice or like, word that you could give to the other developers that are looking to build on Seeker? Like you mentioned retention. I think that's just like the biggest thing. Like, how do you retain players, right? You mentioned it's already a little tough to get on it. Like you need to have that like IQ click of like what exactly you're doing, skill-based gaming, right? And it's like, hey, how does that actually get activated? And like, for me, I'll tell you, it's like after 3 or 4 races, it's like, it's like, God, I wish I could start all over again, right?
Right.
And it's like, dude, but it does sometimes, it's a lot of trial and error at first. And you could either hit it at first or you probably won't hit it at first. But retention is something that's really, really such a one thing that like a lot of developers always seek to miss or miss to seek. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I mean, if I had the answer, I'd solve it. It's every game's problem. And I can give anecdotes of every other game that I've worked on. I worked on the Madden franchise for 10 years, and Madden's retention was one of the worst in the world. Madden is what we would call a coffee table game that you'd boot it up when your buddies came over, and then you'd never play it again. It was just like you had to have it so that your buddies were like, "Hey, you got the new Madden?" You're like, "Yeah, I got it. Yeah, I checked it out." So it's just like one of those things that's really difficult. If it was easy, everyone would do it. I think with photo finish, the struggle has always been like once people click in and do it, they kind of stay forever. And so it's at some level, it's kind of self-selecting that it's like, well, all right, it's a hardcore game. If you don't like hardcore games, we're not going to trick you into wanting to play a hardcore game. But we all debate for years on the best way to like kind of graduate them into the hardcore game. We've tried a couple of things here and there. None of them I've never really liked all that much. And again, you're sort of spoiled with this like crypto heavy community that like dealt with the sort of weirdness, and they don't care. They just came right in at the bottom of the funnel and they were like, heck yeah, I want to put this in my veins. I want to race for real money. So attracting new players has always been sort of tough. And yeah, when I think about talking to other developers, I mean, it's like crypto is strange. Crypto games are strange like that because if you think about a mobile game, like one of our previous mobile games, you maybe get 10 or 15 million downloads at the top of the funnel, right? And then over time, that shrinks down to 10,000 or 20,000 users that are spending money. And so you've got all this free to play stuff to like kind of move them down through the funnel, and you end up with this little core down at the bottom that pays for everything. The 10,000 funds the other million. And in the case of crypto, you just go right into the bottom of the funnel. It's just like you just add the people that are already the 10,000 spenders that are propping up everything else. So it's kind of always been that discussion of like, well, do we need to have the big top of the funnel when we just get the people right into the bottom? And it's like, it's rare, more rare, but it happens like every week. Some new person joins and they're like, wow, this is awesome. And they're just spending like hundreds, thousands of dollars immediately. Um, as opposed to us thinking about like, how do we get 10 million downloads and then try to like convince them to come in. So I know like our community's super vocal about this. We've discussed and debated it for years. A lot of them think I've been doing it wrong. Some doing it right. You never, what else is new? But it's a challenge. Like photo finish is, again, like it's so difficult and deep and hardcore that it has been a challenge to retain brand new people, like no doubt about it. But it's still a great game, and every game has retention problems. So it's just sort of like one of those things that you always just try to make progress on. And we've got a few things coming up we can talk about later that I think are pretty bullish for it. But yeah, overall, it's one of the hardest problems to solve in all of game dev. Everyone has the problem. So yeah, we're not
Yeah,
just
yeah.
us.
Well, it's great that was going to segue into what the next 6 months look like, and like I think that again, a lot of success. Lots of cool things are happening, and just from in real life event to the game event to the actual game, there's so many things to juggle there, right? There are so many things to be able to market correctly to what's actually happening. Love to hear, yeah, like what is that next 6 months to a year, especially going into Christmas and then coming out of Christmas, New Year's, man, like so
Mhm.
many things that like happen that are sometimes could be slower for a lot of people but could be very bullish for other people.
Yeah, so one of the best parts about photo finish is it operates on seasons by default. So it has a constant cadence of every 28 days. The horses all age by a year. So there's just this built-in seasonal change that happens for everyone. And so we typically try to like, on the first day of the season, something new does appear. Or something is coming for the next one. And so there's always something like that happening. Like we've got a new bunch of race styles that are coming where people can enter into lobbies and find matches easier, and that's coming at the beginning of the new season. Breeding age changes, all these things that are like kind of down in the weeds. So we always constantly are doing that, changing the schedule, trying to improve the core experience, the stability, the UX, the UI, all that happens kind of all the time. We've got this passionate user base that is unbelievable. They've been playing forever. They've been playing for 3 years. They talk every day. They may bitch at me all the time, but like they still are having a great time bitching at me too. So it's like one of those things. Like we kind of make that joke is like it's like being like a Browns fan or something. It's like part of the fun is just like complaining, or Jets fan. It's like part of the fun is complaining about the team. Um, but it's still fun. Um,
And the
but yeah,
ownership,
coming up, yeah,
complaining
and the
about the
ownership.
ownership.
Right. Exactly. Complaining about the management. And so that's not new to me. Again, working on Madden, it was 1,000 times worse. So it's a great community, always trying to kind of keep them happy. And then, yeah, so there's sort of two prongs that we've been working on for quite a while now that I think will start to come to fruition over the next 6 months. 6 months, maybe a little longer, maybe shorter. But sort of two angles. So one is wagering and gambling, and then the other is sort of mass market appeal. And so I can talk a little bit about those. But so the first, wagering and gambling. So Photo Finish's whole design and idea from the beginning, it's in my first like roadmap, first pitch, is that we're making this really cool horse racing game that has history and bloodlines and stats, and users are the owners, which makes it a very interesting product to be wagered on. The horses in these races actually have stats and history, so you can wager on them in a very interesting way. Most virtual products, almost all virtual products that are wagerable, are random number generators. They're just, pick a random horse, pick a random staying, pick a random greyhound, pick a random winner. They're slot machines. And so we've always thought that's a cool angle that no one offers. And the idea was always that people betting on photo finish, there's a VIG, so there's like 10% of the pool will then funnel over into photo finish. And so photo finish is always like, just like real horse racing, these people that are playing the ownership game are earning money from the betting public. And that's sort of the two sides to keep them going.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been the final form of photo finish. And now it's just taken a long time because of the compliance. Working our way through, like, how do you do legal wagering? We spent a bunch of time on photo finish this year, like getting the RNG audited. You had to go through eCogro, which is like the top auditor of all RNGs. And, you go through the certification process through licenses, so it's just like this like slog. But eventually, or actually getting close to that within the next month or two, is like the idea that the photo finish races are wagerable on external product. And we built this technology that enables that actually has grown to much larger than just virtual races, and that's called open tote. And so the idea there is all of the pools that you can bet on horse races, they're called a tote. It's pari-mutuel wagering, which means everyone bets against each other. So it's not a house. It's just like when you do a pool with your buddies in March Madness. All of your money goes in, winner takes the win, or the winners takes the money out. So we've spent the better part of a year building this protocol on Solana directly. So it's a stable coin or any coin protocol where you can build a pari-mutuel pool of multiple types, and anyone can use it. And it's sort of, that's why I call it open tote. So that became a lot more sort of disruptive than we thought. We built that specifically for photo finish. And it's really like, as we got farther along, we realized like this can actually be used for anything, like any real sports. People could create their own pools for their own things. So there's sort of like that product development has been happening for like a year of, building out this sort of, you could almost think of it as a wagering back office sort of software tech that is built directly on Solana, to enable pool betting in a really cool way. So that's sort of part one that's been swirling around. And all of that again is built to, enable wagering money to funnel back into photo finish. That's the whole like hope, to build that sort of circular, sustainable economy that real racing enjoys. And so then the second angle, though, is the sort of mass market appeal. And so part of the fun of working with Churchill Downs is the access to the Kentucky Derby. And so we've been working up a lot of prototypes and mobile app stuff to like basically try and make a mobile game that is much more approachable than Photo Finish Live. The notion and the fiction of that being, winning the Kentucky Derby, getting that ready for launch as a free-to-play product that does, down at its bottom of its funnel, get you into Photo Finish Live. So, for example, you're playing for free offline, working your way through a career of a horse, building it up, getting it ready, training it, taking care of the farm. All of those types of things have been in development. And at the end of that, you start competing online for free, work your way through it, build, play online. Everything's sort of free. And then the prize and the work of that is to move over into Solana at the end. So it's sort of what everyone has wanted, I think, that sort of like onboarding experience, but we're doing that hopefully aligned with Churchill Downs a lot more so that it feels much more like a derby themed product. It may not work out that way, but that's been the sort of prototype that I've been working on with them. But regardless, same thing. So there's a tackling from the wagering angle, and then we're tackling from the mass market angle.
Yeah, I'd love for you to backtrack for me for 1 second, just because I want to make sure I understand something, or even just you could give further explanation to the mindset or the vision behind it. The external way that you're building this, is that like something that you're looking at of partnering up, like let's just say with like the bigger sports betting applications, casinos, stuff like that? Does that give you the ability to be able to break through to that audience and even be on different platforms outside of just being like, hey, browser or mobile? It allows you to kind of connect with other products that are out there existing?
Somewhat. So, I mean, it's a different style. So if you look at DraftKings and Kalshi and Polymarket, all these things, that have really blown out, I don't really want to compete with them. Of course, they're like massive multi-billion-dollar treasuries at this point. And, their products are great. Like I use them all the time. The amount of same game parlay stuff, the innovation and the UX and the stuff has gotten so good in sports betting. But what is different and what is missing is that it's always a house. And the idea of pari-mutuel, where you can bet against your friends or you can bet against a crew of people and the odds are dynamic and everything's moving, that enables just a different style. Now, of course, like mostly only horse racing uses that at large scale, and that's $100 billion a year in wagering in horse racing. So it's not like it's small, but other sports do it too, F1 and others. But that's been the angle for us, is like, we're going to kind of like steer clear of the fixed odds, the house style, and go into this sort of pari-mutuel style, which there's not really all that much competition. It's really, really old and archaic. Like most of the technology that powers modern horse racing is like 70 years old. Everything's just like really kind of behind. And so going straight into that, like stablecoin, immediate settlement, transparent settlement, all these things are like really disruptive over in that angle. And then and to me, it's like it's just a separate product offering. Like if I go, for example, on DraftKings and everywhere, and they say the Bears are 3.5 favorites, like there's a chance that the pari-mutuel pool, the Bears could slip out to 12 point or to 1 point, because the odds are shifting because everyone's betting against each other. So there's just like it's just a different product, and it allows bettors and gamblers to be like, oh, maybe there's like an interesting angle here that I can arb against, or I can settle this pool a little differently. And then the fact that it being open is also the most exciting part, that like as this thing comes online and goes to mainnet, that like you could just create a pool of your little league team if you wanted. It doesn't matter, like anyone could create any pool. The SDK to have games use it for free, they could just like put wagering in their app in a pool based way with no house. It's on chain, like takes all that sort of worry of your own thing of like, if I want people to gamble on my shooter, you don't have to build that all yourself. You just spin up an open toe pool and then close it. So that's where I think we're kind of angling, is that niche to steer a little bit clear, but also be in the same world uh, from the other ones.
Yeah, and I think it's super interesting also to hear that like the hurdles that you have to go through to kind of like get this regulated and like
Yeah.
auditing and all that stuff, because I don't think many people in the space, building in public is really cool. I will say that, but at the
Mhm.
same time, people don't realize what building actually means, right? I think people think it's just getting that product and that's it, but getting that product to market,
Yeah.
there's a lot of stops along the way that need to be checked
Yeah.
off. You mentioned, early stages, having to have offshore accounts. Then you mentioned about, the auditing. Man,
Oh
these
yeah.
are all things that cost a lot of money. Like, I don't think
Oh
people
yeah.
realize the amount of money that it goes into just operationally getting something off to the start. And I think like hats off to you guys for taking the right road and taking the road that, like, again, for me, it's always like, hey man, how do you stay long term? How do you stay vision, to what it truly is, and in 5 years be able to do it correctly and not have to have anything of like, hey, we got to shut down because we skipped a
Right.
corner, or hey, we
Yeah.
we decided to skip a step.
Yeah.
I
To,
think
to that point, it's like, if I think back, sometimes I think back of like when we started the company, and it's just like, should I have stayed anon, moved to Caymans or moved to Hong Kong or moved to Dubai, and just built everything directly on chain? And, it's like, obviously I'm not going to do that with my family and leave Florida, but there's that you're competing against. It's like there are people that have done that and can just be Wild West and they don't care. And that's where a lot of innovation happens. It's sort of like, we have to take the regulatory path, and that slows us down. But you look at some other places, I think in the long run, it levels out. It's like Backpack is a great example of exchange that, like, we're going to go slow and we're going to get regulated in every step of the way. We're not going to be shady. We're not going to do these things. We're not going to like motor in and just step into some massive illegal um, you know, problem later, just at the sake of being fast. And that's been our case. But it's tough because sometimes you see products snap out and they shoot ahead because they didn't do any of that. They just went right on chain. There have been multiple NFT projects that set up sports books and with no KYC and no geolocking. And I'm like, yo, what? You just don't care about going to jail at all? You're in the US and but that's their choice. And again, over time, that levels out. I mean, I worked at FanDuel in 2014, 2013-ish, and it was a really interesting to see their sort of like model of like, go as fast as you can. Here comes the legal challenges. Now slowly kind of like work your way through those in a compliant manner. And it's okay to like say, look, all right, New York is off. New York's off, and we're going to work our way through lobbyists for 6 years to get New York on. And like right now, DraftKings just got shut off, I think, and Flutter from Vegas because they're going into prediction markets. I think that happened yesterday, the day before. And it's like, all right, well, fine, we'll shut off Vegas, and then we're going to work our way through the legal system for the next 3 years to get Vegas turned back on. That's how it works. And I think for the long-term health, that's what you kind of have to do. And yeah, it does cost a fortune, unfortunately. But
Yeah, I think a lot of people in crypto were screaming crime is legal, and for a long time, I even said to myself, like, "Man, crime is
it's
legal."
crime
Like,
season. Yeah, it's crime
season. Why am I doing this the right way? Why am I taking? And I think again, ethics and all that stuff do play into fact. But I think like
right, laws. Yeah, right.
I think it's like one of those things. But
yeah.
Look, man, I think it's really cool to hear a lot of what you're saying from the building to even to the partnerships and how it's evolving. I think like I know we're coming around like our time here, but let me ask you like one of the biggest questions in any game and especially in Web3 gaming is, am I too late? Right? Am I too late? Like people deter themselves so much from playing a game sometimes, or putting money into a game, investing in a game because they feel like, hey, I'm too late. I think that one thing about you guys has been is like, man, it's never late. There's a new race happening every 2-3 minutes. The opportunity there is endless because it's constantly being refreshed. But how is that message sent to especially crypto folks, right? To people in Web3 that have that built in their brain of, oh man, that launched already. Yeah, sorry, didn't get in under the 100 mil. Yeah, I'm not touching it.
Yeah, that's really hard to fight against, man. And that's one thing I never envisioned or thought about really is that level. So like every game that I'd worked on pretty much all had the same problem of we call power creep or the power curve, which is just like everyone in the game got really good. You can think about Madden Ultimate Team. By the time you join late, everyone's got all 99 players. You get the crap beat out of you. It's not fun. You join Call of Duty, everyone's really good. They trounce your ass, you quit. And I was like, okay, the core design of Photo Finish is that the horses are all aging. So there's not a super horse that just dominates everyone. That horse wins. Maybe it wins for a couple months, but then it retires, it leaves. And so I was like, man, we've got the best game design. This is gonna like work forever. There's no reason it can't. Every year that there's a great horse that some dude is like beating up on everyone, well, that horse goes away. Doesn't matter. Every season he goes away. He gets older. So I'm like, we're set. But I never quite expected this sort of notion of like people go look at your token chart and they go, the game's dead. I'm not going to join this. And it's like, well, the game's not dead. The game's fine, but token price action we don't control. And like, there's just a lot of negative signals on it. And it's like, it's just sort of hanging where it was. But it went way up because of hype, came back down because the hype went away. And it's just like, that's really difficult to like this publicly traded side of your game, that is like just goes at a whim. Obviously influencers shilling it, things like that can make it run. And then once you're old, you're kind of just like, no one cares. Like, it's just like, it's really hard to get a big injection of hype back when it's a long chart, an old chart. So it's just been tough to deal with that. Like very, very tough to deal with that. Not expected. And, I don't know if we have an answer that we've been able to solve, but like the game design itself is just, I know that we always fall back to that like you can join at any time and you're at no disadvantage. There are horses for sale that people pick up on the market for $1.50 that win $500 races because people just haven't found them yet. Like that is constant and it's always refreshing. So I know the design is tight, but the narrative is always like, well, if you're kind of looking at it from the crypto sphere, it's sort of like, that product, I'm going to wait to get in on some TGE that's coming up. That's sort of because I need 100x. That's like, I don't know. That's how it goes.
Yeah. And I think like, man, like, I think that's what's actually for me hurt gaming overall. Like, because I think gaming is having success. There are games that are having success, but it's hard to say games are having success because the typical Web3 person wants 100x returns or 10x returns. And gaming won't give you that, right? Just it's simple as that. Gaming will not give you that. gaming is going to be something long term. Gaming is something, again, very much long term, and it requires, like you mentioned, like it requires time. It requires an investment into it, because essentially what gaming is supposed to be, again, give you a hobby, a way to escape from things. It's not supposed to be like, hey, not like I'm in and I'm out in 24 hours and like I'm gonna move on to the next one, because it just doesn't work like that. Gaming is something where you're entertained every single day and you're coming back every single day for the same thing. And I think, like, yeah, man, I think it's uber important to understand like that for games are having success. It's just that the timeline is not having success because it's no longer benefiting their pockets, right? And what happens, especially in this market, right? If it doesn't benefit your pockets, like, man, I'm going to crypto Twitter and saying this game sucks.
Yeah, scammers.
You know what I mean?
So, these guys rugged me. It's like, okay, but
founder doesn't know what he's doing.
I can just, it's just infinite. But yeah, photo finish is just really interesting because it is an entertainment product, but it's also not. Like, it's around making, you're trying to, in a PvP world, outdo your other people. I mean, so you are trading stacks against the other players. You're trying to be it's a skill game. So you're putting your own money up to play against other people. So that sort of, again, kind of tightens who's going to be into that. But the folks that are there, I mean, that's what we're trying to give them, is as much opportunity to be able to be ROI positive based on like external sources like wagering, while they still, like, they've got the competitive spirit. They're trying to fight the hell out of each other, but, like, there's always losers. Like, they're gonna end up being difficult. And so, that whole, like, explosion of Axie and the sort of, like, play to earn, which isn't sustainable, it just really kind of put the sour taste in it, because it's like, now everyone expects, I want to be able to play this game. I want it to be a Ponzi. I want to be in early and get 100x and then get the hell out and dump on the people that came in after. And it's just like, you can do that. Like, it'd be cool to make just a game a week that did that, so that people can speculate on it just like it's a meme coin. But games aren't that easy to make. Like, they take a really long time to build. They're like as complicated as movies to build sometimes. And so it's like, you can't just rush and be at that pace the way that meme coins were happening. That was really when we started to see a real struggle in photo finishes. Even some of our top players were like, I love playing photo finish, but I have to put my capital over here in meme coins because there's 100x's every day. And I'm over here just playing photo finish for 1.2x, grinding it out. Even though I like the game, it's like, I need to get my money over here because I'm going to miss out on massive gains. And so it's just, it's challenging.
Yeah.
It's a weird world. There's no doubt about it. I never would have expected all this stuff, and it's been exciting, but it's very strange.
I almost say that you're probably hoping for a bear market, right? Because I think, like, you're able to be like, yo, you done with those? It's dead. It's dry. Come actually, have a better way to experience the bear
That's
market.
When we grew. I mean, we launched in the heart of the worst time. I mean, the sentiment was terrible. It was like, April of 2023. Like, everything was just, Sol was $9, $10. We had gone into that too with all this hype. Like, everyone was super excited. It was like everyone had massive Sol bags. They were like ready to go spend millions of dollars on digital horses. All of it vanished by the time we got live. That happened while we were in beta, basically. And so it went from this idea of like, we're going to have $100,000 purses to like, well, maybe it's 2,000. Like, it just changed the whole sentiment of the whole space. And again, that's just something you can't. Well, I guess we would have never had the $100,000 idea anyway if we hadn't been on Solana and in the space. But yeah, it is a game that's a little bit better for like a bear market where there's just not as much going on, and it's a great entertainment value. It's also one of the best games that I've found that communities rally around a shared stable. That's been like a really fun thing that a lot of communities have done. It happened a lot more when the NFT communities were around. Of course, most of those are all just like ghost towns now, but the idea of like, 10 people in a little NFT community say, oh, we're going to go buy 10 horses, pool our money together. Every Friday night we get together and we have beers on Discord and watch our races. Like, that's actually a really great way to play the game. And, so that you don't obviously also like feel like all the work is on you to maintain the stable. You've got sort of a couple people that are doing it. It's like a shared fantasy team, which a lot, you do that a lot with like you and your three buddies, you know, are in a shared fantasy team together. It's the same idea.
Yeah. Well, Ian, man, it's been awesome having you back on.
Yeah, man.
I definitely think we need to do these more often because I feel like you share a lot of alpha that we don't know about,
Yeah.
and you really do a phenomenal job of breaking down exactly what is happening and how it happens. And I think that's super important. I think like getting this kind of story out is super super important. I think like it helps us understand more, and makes us a little bit more compassionate, right? Like a little bit more of like, hey, okay, like we need to figure out how to better support. Like we need to figure out better how to get involved. Like, it helps us understand like, that you are human, right? Like you are truly building something, and it's not easy to build it. And like, I think like sometimes it's these stories that make us understand, like, and be like a little bit more of like, all right, bro, like easy on being a keyboard warrior, right? Like, yeah, we it's so easy to type certain things.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think like really cool. Hey man,
Yeah. Happy to. Thanks for having me on again. Good seeing you again. It's been a bit.
yeah, man. And what's any in real life events happening in the next 3, 4, 6 months?
Well, photo finish. I mean, obviously the Derby's in May. We always like try and do stuff around Kentucky Derby and plan and do around that. There's IRL, like there's a pretty cool like symposium coming up and with real horse racing, so not crypto, but like the actual industry, and that's in about a month in Arizona. But no, we're not doing Breakpoint or any of those this year. I did it last year, and I'm just too old for that shit, man. Like there's a lot of travel, and like I did the talk on the stage, and we announced mobile and all those things. It was really really cool, but man, it was like, oh my gosh, it's really hard for, especially like our team's small and we are heavy builders, so it's really hard sometimes to kind of get out there into the event like
Yeah.
cycle. But hey, if there's something in Miami, I'll come down.
Hey, Art Basil's coming around the corner. Maybe I'll see you there.
Yeah, I need to head down for that. I did do Basel last year too. That was fun.
Yeah. I'm actually, Knicks are playing the Magic next Monday too, man. In Orlando. So I don't know,
Oh, okay.
man.
Come on over. Let's do it.
We might have to go actually ride some horses, and then maybe we'll ride some horses to the arena.
Yeah. Let's do that. Let's just book a racehorse to like trot around Kia Center. Yeah, I like that.
All right, Ian, man. Always a
All right,
pleasure having you on. Always great talking to you, man. Talk
All right,
soon, man.
See you.